Can everyone hear me? Okay, good. Good afternoon. Thanks AMAP for having me here to speak on behalf of our team. My name is Truong. I'm a civil engineer with the Los Angeles County Public Works. I have been with the county for the last 13 plus years. In 2012, I started with our pavement management team. And since then, a lot of changes, a lot of new things that we are working on. And today, what I'd like to present is our strategic plan on how we want to maintain our roads from a county agency perspective. It's in no mean of material, data, but more of a little higher level on looking at some projects, example of what we have done, and maybe you'll find it interesting. So without further ado, presentation today, I'd like to start with a quick overview of the Los Angeles County road network. We'll dive right into our sustainable three-prong approach that we're pretty excited to share with you. Give you a little info on the pavement management system that we're using, and then the three strategy basically in alignment with the three-prong approach, and highlight the benefits of the program. Just share with you some pilot project that we had been doing the last few years, and just a few takeaways. So Los Angeles County, we maintain one of the largest county road network in California. We maintain 7,400 lane miles of all sort of roads, and the challenge is really spread out, 137 county islands, and our current conditions index, PCI, is 66 in fair conditions. The different colors coding is just the 5 supervisorial district, the way it's broken down, and the white area is cities, so city of Los Angeles as well as other small cities. So the way our county is broken up is 2 different regions. In the North County, it's 40% of our network, pretty rural, very much low to moderate traffic. Obviously, there are some high truck traffic routes as well, and those are pretty challenging. And usually no curb and gutter, mostly rural, and got the extreme temperature fluctuation. And so wintertime, we do get snow up there. During the summer season, is well beyond 110, 120 degrees. So the roads are pretty cracked due to the thermal experience. And down the basin, this is the majority of our network, including the Malibu area, which is in the pink area, which is our District 3. Majorities are urbanized, local residential, as well as the major arterials. So pretty busy down there, and our condition is 69. Generally speaking, is in better conditions than the North County. So before 2008, we consider ourselves a worst first organization. We basically wait till roads get into really bad condition before we go and fix it. And we didn't have a really good pavement management software, and mostly we don't have a lot of preservation treatment tools that we use. So mostly when we do fix the road, is generally speaking is hot mix, overlay, reconstruction. So a lot of remove and replace sort of treatment. And with the economy crashes around 2008, we pretty much had budgetary issues that we're facing, just like any other public agencies, and we just pretty much had to figure out a way to do a better job maintaining our roads with limited budgets. And so at the same time, there was a big push in California to really reduce greenhouse gas. Brandon Miller from yesterday spoke a little bit about the different Assembly Bill, and Assembly Bill 32 was one that reduced greenhouse gas, basically to 1990 level by 2020, and this probably has changed since. But from there, we pretty much were looking for ways to do that. So we work with We basically attended different conferences just like this one and really get to know more about what other agencies are doing and working with partnering with contractors and material suppliers and finding ways to really do a better job to maintain on the road network and reduce greenhouse gas. So this is what we developed from since then, and this is our sustainable three-pronged approach. We really just want to start with, number one is to preserve our pavements when they're in good conditions. And so we're talking about PCI. And we also want to preserve roads that are in the fair and poor conditions. I'll dive into it a little bit more later. And number two is to use recycled pavements. We're talking about RAP, and we're talking about rubberized AC. And you're familiar with the just wet process versus the terminal blend. We use both, and as long as we're using rubberized tires in the mixes, that's what we wanted to do. And number three is the reusing what is there. And what I'm talking about is treatments such as coal-in-place recycling, coal-central plant recycling, and then the cement stabilization, which is Caltrans considers as full depth reclamation, and that's no difference. We're trying to reuse as much as we can of what is there. So with the three-pronged approach, our pavement management system is really what tie everything together. We need to know our network conditions before we can do anything. So having a good, robust pavement management system is the key. And so we keep track of the condition of our whole network. And this software has the GIS capability, so we're able to visually see what conditions of our network is. And when we do, again, we collect the data. We have both in-house people that does it, as well as we have contractor that does it for us. For the North County is a pretty far drive, so we do have a contractor that's collecting pavement condition distresses for us. And so the distresses pretty much imported into our pavement management system, and that's where the PCI is generated. And so as you can see, we used to do project with street all over the place. And with the robust system, we now plan our project more strategically, and we group project in a neighborhood kind of community setting. And so we go in, we fix everything, and put everything in the same maintenance schedule. And so complaining is a little bit less from that point of view. This is a set of pavement performance prediction curves in the software, and you're probably familiar with it, but basically every road in the county is tied to one of these curves, and it's really correlated to three elements. We're talking about the pavement structure, the traffic volume, and the subgrade conditions. And so depending what it is, it would deteriorate in different rates. And just a quick example, you have a road that has pretty good structure, low traffic, and very good subgrade strength, then you see that deteriorate much slower than the opposite. This really zoom into a typical performance prediction curves. And so the way we broke down our conditions, PCI is in 5 different categories. People does it a little bit differently, but from our perspective, it's just, again, the score is from 0 to 100. So on the y-axis, you'll see from 0 where the roads completely fail, and then 100 is like a brand new street. And then the x-axis is just the time. And so the way we were operating before 2008 were really in the red zone. So we're focusing more on the lower end of the curve. We go ahead and fix road when it's falling apart, but we realized how critical it was to preserve our roads when they're in good conditions. So with that being said, we do a lot of preservation treatments when roads in the good conditions. You can see in the yellow box where the cost per square feet is very low when you're doing those type of maintenance treatments. Talking about 5 cents to 80 cents per square feet. But at the same time, I mentioned that we do preservation for roads that are in those critical zone. And so in this graph here, you'll see the dotted zone. those are the critical zone. We want to catch the roads before it gets into the next worser conditions, because as the conditions fall into the different category, the cost to repair them is a lot more. Could be 5 to 10 times as much if we wait till the road gets into worse conditions. So the goal is to not only preserve the good roads, but also hitting those area and catching the road before it falls to the next level. And then when it does go to the resurfacing, again, resurfacing is very good, very cost effective, but for a lot of local residential street, at least for County of LA, they have pretty thin pavement structure. So oftentimes we go in, we take cores, and it comes back that it's so thin on the AC that we can't really mill and overlay. And so now we're stuck. We can't reconstruct, and we end up having to just preserve, right? Keep it in that conditions, because we don't have enough money to reconstruct all the roads out there. And then when it gets to the rehab in the poor and the fail area, that's when we're looking at the sustainable treatment method rather than the traditional method of removing and replacing. And I'll go into that a little bit more. So this is a pretty powerful slide that we want to share with folks, other agencies and city agencies. So let's talk about a little bit about our program. Just pretty brief, but we developed a 5-year, what we call a rolling 5-year plan. And so in it, you got all sort of project areas, different treatment that we want to focus on. And it's all driven by PCI. And we work with our partners, internal partners, basically to prioritize the different project area to make sure it's balanced between the supervisory district and the road maintenance district. So that's the plan, the game that we have to play to make sure everything is, everybody get a piece of the funding and road projects. So this is the number one strategies is the preservation. And so like I mentioned, PCI, there are 76 and above, which is in the good conditions. We wanted to use preservation treatment. We talked about slurry seal, fox seal, chip seal, but then we also use it in the fair and poor conditions. And when it gets into those conditions, we're looking more into the Cape Seal and Cape Seal world, but no different. It's the same sort of contractor that does the work, so it's very cost-effective method to maintain the conditions. The nice things that I want to share is that we actually use 100% wrap for the seal coat, so meaning 100% on the slurry. We use polymer modified emulsion wrap slurry. It's 100% wrap, and the scrub seal, which is a form of the chip seal, and that's also 100% wrap. And in the microservicing, we are also using 100% wrap. The sources are not coming from us. We low bid, so contractor come up with the wrap, and haven't had any problem with that. And it's very comparable in cost, so we're not really seeing a difference. But since we're promoting to use wrap, we sometimes get a little more incentive to use wrap, and it's very good for the environment. Now, the thing about the micromilling, I want to point out that's something that we do when we do a preservation project. We know that preservation is not the same as hot mix, so we try to do a little bit more as far as improving the rideability on the roads, because sometimes it's a lot of years of slurry and the cracks. You got all these up and down. So the rideability is important, and so we found that doing a micromilling, which is no different than a cold milling, but the drum, the teeth are a lot finer, and so we're talking about no more than 3/8 of an inch of milling. It's just basically hit all the, remove all the high points, take out some of the buildup on the edges, and at the end of the day, we get a better product, and our residents and constituents are actually happier when we are doing that. So it's cost that we're putting down, but we're doing that because of the overall product itself. Just to highlight the stopgap, call it a stopgap measure when we're doing a Cape Seal for roads that are in the fair and poor conditions. This is just a table, we share about, when we do a seal coat treatment, when roads in fair conditions versus, in worse conditions, the expected life is very different. It's different. So it's just knowing that in the back of our mind, sharing that information with our administration, so we're all on the same page. Because when we go into a neighborhood, a community, roads are deteriorating at different rates, and so we are doing everything the same and keep everyone happy. But certain roads, obviously, in worse conditions than others. So this is where this table kind of show you the information. So this is a sample project that we did about 3 years ago. This is one of the community down in South San Gabriel. What we did was we did it's a stopgap measure. We went in, we did just go over a little quick. It's 11.7 miles combined, and basically conditions on average is 59, which is in the lower end of the fair curve, and basically alligator cracking, transverse, longitudinal. Those are typical cracking that we see in the residential areas. And what we did was we went in, did prep AC digouts for area that's in worse conditions, and then we come back and we did either a slurry seal. We use, like I mentioned, we use polymer modified emulsions for the slurry seal, and then also we did the cape seal along with the micromilling. And so the cost of doing this project is 72 cents per square feet, but we're able to cover 1.9 million square feet within that contract cost. And just a few pictures of what it looked like before, what it looked like after we did the micromilling, and then after we applied the chip seal and slurry seal. The beauty is very lot of greenhouse gas reductions when we compare it to a traditional way of fixing these roads. Energy consumption reduction. The cost comparison is not all straightforward, but we're looking at the life extension from a cape seal to a full reconstruction. Like I mentioned, a lot of these streets we cannot resurface, and so what we're comparing is reconstruction would extend with basically a brand new street, give it a 25-year life, versus a cape seal will generally give it 7 years life. So we kind of scale that back into a single cycle of treatment, and that's kind of the money that we see is we're saving, not really saving. It's the money that we don't have at the beginning, so we actually were able to do this much square footages with the money we had. The resurfacing, this is, we talked about the rubberized asphalt concrete. The statement here is that, it's roughly 1,000 tires being recycled for every 1 inch of overlay. And this is from the Cal Recycle, the California website. And so we use both the gap graded, the fuel blend, the wet process, and we also use terminal blend. And again, the pictures here on the top, you're familiar with it. It's just you can see, the asphalt rubber binder is not fully digested, and then the terminal blend is fully digested at the terminal itself. And so this has been our tool for when we do resurface or just the surface cores. That's what we use. And so from yesterday, I think a little bit on the rubberized hot mix is that we have done it since the early 90s. We found that it lasts longer, stay dark longer, and is really good with reflective cracking. And so there's a lot of goods to it. And so as the state of California, we are committed to use more of the recycled tire in our asphalt. And so in the reconstruction world, that's when we are looking at the full depth reclamation. Since the county used the Green Book is the term is cement stabilized pulverized base. And so what we're doing here is it's in place, reusing the existing base, existing asphalt, and we adding cement as a additives to strengthen the foundation before we place a layer of asphalt. And so that has been a huge push, because there are a lot of saving that we see from that work, because we no longer need to remove all the good aggregate that was there, that was, that was built on the original structure. So we don't need to haul that materials away. We actually be able to reuse it in place. And so you got the saving on the landfill, because all that material is not being dumped somewhere, because you can't reuse unclassified, excavated materials. And so all that has just been amazing. And not only that, the construction duration is a lot better compared to having to excavate down 12, 15 inches. We no longer need to do that. And then the second element is the asphalt. So we're using a lot of coal-in-place recycling, as well as the co-center plant recycling. I have a couple projects that I'm going to show you, but the idea is to reuse as much as we can. And we've been doing that for the last since 2009, and so it's a lot of projects that we had done, and it's been a successful journey, but in no mean that we cannot improve. But the greenhouse gas is the cost saving is 20 to 30%, and then the reduction in greenhouse gas is 70%, and so 100% RAP. And again, the CIR and the CCPR, they are coal recycling, so the temperature of those mixes are in the 150s versus hot mixes in the 300. So that element is also factor into the environmental benefits. So El Segundo, this is a project that we did a few years back. It's a major arterial. It's pretty cracked up, and the PCI is 41 in poor conditions. It's just borderline fail and poor. And so it's 4 to 6 lanes, majors, and is have a pretty good pavement structure. You got 5 to 8.5 inches of AC, and then we do have a good layer of base underneath. So this was the strategy, is to rehab, and so what we did was we put back a section that is 1.5 inch of rubberized AC on 3 inches of coal-in-place recycling, and the cost is $1.80 per square feet. And so I'll just give you a few pictures. So this is a before conditions. First, they have to coal mill down 1.5 inches, because you got the edge gutters that you have to maintain. So you take that 1.5 inches out, and the remaining we're recycling basically 3 inches. And so this is it's always a cool pictures. Oh, sorry, go back. It's always a good pictures that we share with other agencies. This is the coal-in-place recycling train. And so what we're doing here is, from the left to right, you have the coal milling machine. So this is where it's coal milling 3 inches down, and all that wrap is being transported into you got the recycling unit. And so in there, that's where the emulsion and water and different additive is being rejuvenating the wrap. And then from there, they put it right back onto a windrow underneath. And then the paver is at the very end. And so the cool thing with this process is that you stand at one point, and when the train goes through, 5 minutes later, you're going to see a new pavement underneath. And so this is one of our favorite treatment. But this, because the equipment, the size of the equipment, so we only use it in the arterial roads. We don't use it on residential. And then this is the just paving the CIR, no different than any kind of paving. And then the final course is the ARHM. It's a gap graded ARHM, is what we call. So the greenhouse gas aspect, energy consumption, these are all good stuff. Reduction in landfill is basically that 3 inch of AC. We no longer need to haul into a landfill. Obviously, the AC can be reused in the HMA, but in this case here, we're reusing on the project in place. And so the cost saving, when we compare it to a remove and replace sort of treatment method, there's cost saving. So it's good for the environment, and it's good for it's saving money. So why not? Next is Susana Road. This is also this is more of in the reconstruction world. And so this is kind of near city of Long Beach. It was structurally inadequate, and so we had to reconstruct as a major arterial, 4 lanes, 2 lanes in each direction. And so what we ended up using was because it's a truck route, has pretty good high TI, traffic index. And so for the higher traffic index truck routes, we generally wanted to use we want to either use polymer modified AC, and we also use terminal blend AC. In this case, we use 2 inches of PMAC on 3 inches of cold central plant recycling AC, and then we put all that into 10 to 12 inch of CSPB. And so the contract cost is $3.2 million for about $4.20 per square feet. And along with that, we basically had added some low impact development features, bioswale, and we had bike lane. So everything is no different than a traditional project. So we just kind of saying that, the way the sustainable method is no different. We actually just improving our roads with a lower cost. So this is just some pictures of what it looked like before. This picture here basically is the initial cold milling of the wrap, and so that wrap is being transported to a central plant. This little plant is actually located 2-3 miles within the project site. This is a mobile plant. And so the recycling equipment is basically the picture that you saw on the cold in place recycling is basically the same equipment, but it's disassembled and it's put it at the plant. So this is where all the recycling is happening. And then as it's happening, the cement stabilization is occurring on the road. And so the next, that's the previous pictures. And then once the CSPB is nice and pure, and that's when we bring back the recycled AC, pave that, and then the PMAC is put down on top, and so that's the final surface. And so this one has a huge amount of savings compared to a traditional reconstruction. The greenhouse and everything is all there. Landfill reduction, as you can see that that 10-12 inches of CSPB could have been CMB or CAB, but we're not. We're using it, what is there. And so then the AC itself. So a lot of those are being, we're promoting that on every project that we are doing. If we see it fit, that's when we are pursuing. And so as you can see, compared to a traditional remove and replace, it's a huge difference. Benefits, just to summarize the benefit, we got the cost savings there, we got the environmental aspect there. We're able to maintain the natural resources. I live in LA, I drive to work every day, and there's mine pit, there's a hill where they're cutting into those hills further and further, and so it's from a perspective of a resident, driving on the freeway, you can see that. And so what we're doing is helping to reduce that, and the fact that it actually speed up the construction process. So just overall, it's an approach that we think is very sustainable. This chart is hard to see, but this is we keep track of how many projects we have done over the years since 2008, 2009, and so this is more of a internal summary of how much we have done over the course of the last 10 plus years. And so if we do make mistake, this is a scorecard that we share with the big boss. Hey, look, we made some mistake, we'll learn from it, but at the same time, look, all these years we have done a lot of goods on the different new technique. And so as a R&D sort of, if we have a big change order, well, we'll learn from that. But as you can see, the key thing is this savings. So we're trying to compare what it used to be done and what we're doing now. There's a huge cost savings, and the fact that we're reducing greenhouse gas. So this is what we use to kind of remind ourselves that, hey, we got to continue that route because yeah, we can't go back to the old ways. Just want to highlight some pilot project we have done the last few years. One that came into mind was the fiber reinforced AC. We did some pilot up in the North County because that's kind of our testing ground, not as vocal with the residents. And so what it is just you know, synthetic fiber containing aramid and polyolefin. I think it's just fiber, and it's being mixed into the drum or at the plant, and so it increased the cost a little bit, but what it's doing is supposed to improve the longevity of the performance of the AC, and so that's kind of the idea behind it. We did some here. We did 3 pilot projects up in the North County, pretty beat up. The North County roads. The strategy is a little different. Again, 40% of the network in the North County doesn't mean they get 40% of the funding. And so we gotta be just, because of low volume roads, sometimes it's just hard to commit a lot of money up there. And so we're looking for new ways. We're constantly looking for new method to maintain the roads up there. And so this is just one of many. At the end, it's about $10 per ton, additional to the asphalt. We had a little issue at the beginning. The plan mix was not done sufficiently, so you got clumps of fiber. After paving, we found that there are clumps of fiber on the surface course. But it's just a learning process. We're going to continue to evaluate to see how it performed. So we did a side-by-side comparison. So that's something that we're going to keep an eye on it. Cool pavement. I think Brandon mentioned that it's a huge push on cool pavement, but then gotta be careful as far as the unintended consequences of putting cool pavement everywhere. And so what we did was, I think City of LA did some pilot project a couple years now, and so we also got into that being pushed by our supervisor, and that we need to do something. And so we're piloting a project using cool pavement. We're testing 4 different products, and it's for a whole a big community. And so evaluating the performance of the 4 products, see which one do the best before we, and then also teaming up with university to collect data, to collect temperature before, during, after. So we just finished actually placing it, and so there are data of before, there are data of, not really data of now because it's in the winter season, but in the course of next summer we're going to see, continue to work with university, and there should be a report on that. Yeah, so it's just something to let you know. And then this is fairly new. There's a push from to use is high wrap hot mix, and so this is going to be very high content of wrap in the hot mix. We're using Cohen Place 100% wrap. This is a hot mix, and so supposedly it's for the surface course. And so we talk about putting down 80, potential 85 to 100% wrap hot mix on the surface. I know City of LA did something 15, 16 years ago. It was in that range of high wrap. And so far performance sounds like it's been performing since 15, 16 years ago. And so now I think there's a push, come up with some money. The way I highlighted here, because I think the county is going to be selecting some of the roads, the county roads, for this pilot project. And so that's kind of our involvement on that. We'll keep you guys, you guys will be, I'm sure you guys will be informed when there's a report that comes out. But that's coming up. Just some takeaways. Our approach wasn't easy. Basically, it took a lot of effort to learn from others, and coming to conferences like this really helped to build our knowledge. We have to sell it to our administration, So all that work was quite a long journey. Our boss is very committed in this approach, and he has been the driver on this. And we work with our internal divisions to really get everybody up to speed on the different technology, different technique there's out there. And so we obviously do pilot project, at the beginning, and we constantly have to be just persistent and remind ourselves, don't go back to the old ways, because that's far gone. And the ongoing collaboration, I think, earlier someone talked about, it's important to, the dialogue is important. I think communicating with the internal partners are keys, and also the learning from other agencies, county agencies, city, and the DOT. All that is needed. And the contractor side, material side, I think we definitely very excited to do that. And then finally is this is just the three-pronged approach. So when we do work on a project, these are the things that we think about first. We think about preservation, think about resurfacing, and we think about reconstruction. And our mind is pretty much focused on these things. And if there's anything new that would be incorporated into this, then that's what we're going to continue to improve. And that's end my presentations. Have any questions? Thanks. Yeah. Thank you.
Any questions for Van?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Bob, okay, I'll get to you.
Van, Susana.
Yeah.
There was, the Susana Road had a fabric layer in there.
Yeah.
And the slide that you showed with the structural section, is that before or after taking care of the road?
The pictures?
There was one slide where that fabric was mentioned.
Oh, yes. That's before.
That's before.
Yeah.
So, and the thickness was between 2 and 9 inches, I think.
Yeah, you're right. It's the existing structure, and so with the fabric, yeah.
And so my question is, did you go with the milling as deep as taking out the fabric, or did you mill just above the fabric?
What I remember was that it wasn't throughout. It was it was piecemeal, and our core actually didn't hit those areas until we actually were constructing. So what ended up happening was the milling hit the fabric, and so we actually had to. The contractor actually had to have some guy, just to actually manually take the fabric out from the wrap.
But it's not part of the new structure.
It's not part of the new structure. These petromat is not recyclable, so we had to take it away.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Van. So I think he'll be available until 2 this morning, so if you need to talk with him, you probably can do that. We're going to take a shorter than normal break, and I don't usually like to cut breaks short, but we're into the home stretch. There's fewer of you all, and I think the exhibitors are mostly shutting things